Hey, Blockchain Bernie here. In my last video, I talked to you about my investment philosophy, and I talked to you about some of the successes that I had also recently. And well, in this little video, I'm going to reveal to you all my fails that I had in my life, right? And there have been a lot, right? And you can learn from it, right? And the most thing you can learn from it, what helps me to learn is like others are in that position as well, right? So everyone I know that made a fortune somehow, they've been broke at least one time in their life, and maybe even two, three times, right? And you need to know that, and that helps a lot, and it has helped me a lot, having heard from other people about their mistakes and their fails, and it helped me get over my own, and not give up, and just keep investing and keep learning and everything. So I'll give you the full rundown of what happened in my life, and I hope you like this little video, and if so, please destroy that like button for me and subscribe to my channel. It all gives you points for the Xandeum Points program, by the way. All right, so my first big fail, right, that was back in 2008. Right, and I was still living in Germany back in the day. I was born and raised there, and I had quite a sizable stock portfolio. Right, the first mistake that I made is I borrowed against it. Right, so that was a mistake, and I knew I gave that piece of advice to anyone back in the day. And by the way, nothing in this video is considered investment advice. I don't know your situation, your personal situation. I'm not a financial advisor or anything, so this is just for entertainment purposes and for sharing my story with you. So I had that that portfolio, and it basically came from past gains and stuff, and for some reason I borrowed against it, and I borrowed like 50% or so. So 50% of the value was borrowed, and I didn't even need that money much, right? It's just I just wanted to leverage the whole portfolio and have more in there than I put in there, right? So, and I thought like the gains that we had in all those years leading up to 2008, especially from 2005 to 2008, I thought these gains might go on, and then in the historic charts, you saw like, wow, sometimes we can have a pullback of like 20%, sometimes 30%. But pullbacks of 50, 55, 60% in the overall stock market, those were unheard of back in the day, but they did happen in 2008. And it would have been so easy for me just to, put a bit more money in to get the debt to loan value a little bit better, or sell some of the stock early enough and stuff like that. I didn't, I thought like, no, this was my choice. These are great stocks in there. They have their value. I didn't want to give up on a little bit of yield because I believed in these, right? And it was probably a little bit like I fell in love with some of these stocks. And I also had some growth stocks in there. Back in the day, it was a solar stock called Solar World. It was a German company. They had 10x, 20x, 30x in my portfolio. And I thought like, I could walk on water, right? And made the right choices. But, it's often like when you have these crashes, pullbacks and stuff, the ones that came up the most, they also go down the most, right? So simple advice that I even knew before that day, right? Simple advice is, never buy stocks or even crypto on borrowed money, right? And I told it to everybody else, but I thought like I'm different, right? Maybe I thought like I don't know, I'm an investment guru or something like that, right? And of course, it came closer and closer to that 50% mark. And when it actually crashed, I was on vacation. I was on vacation with my kids in the US, in San Diego, by the way, where I later moved on to live there for like 9 years. Yeah, and I was in vacation, and I had a 9-hour time difference with my bank, and trying to figure out what to do. And honestly, back in the day, I couldn't really figure out what to do, other than they having to liquidate my account, right? So I came back from vacation and saw my portfolio being decimated by 90% or so. I don't really remember the percentage, but I lost a lot of money in six-figure euros. I think like 350,000 euros or so back in the day. I mean, that was with the exchange rate in 2008. That was almost $500,000, and in today's dollars, that's almost $1 million, right? So, I was never honestly really down or something, or close to not even angry or something like that, right? So I came back from vacation and went to my bank there, and they said, "Hey, Mr. Bloom, so sorry this happened," and they were almost bracing that I yell at them or something, which I didn't do, and it just happened. I always took accountability for my decisions, and those were all my decisions, and those were the consequences, and I never try to blame anyone or stuff like that. That's part of my investment philosophy also. So what I did is, like, from the last like $20,000 or so that were left over, guess what I did with that? I bought stocks. So I bought basically a Berkshire Hathaway, Apple, and a third one that I don't remember these days, right? The third one kind of went nowhere, so I sold it at some point in time a few years later. Berkshire Hathaway was quite okay, but nothing of the past glory that we knew from them from the pre-2000 times. So it was quite a nice return there. But Apple stood out like crazy, right? And as I mentioned in one of my other videos today, I'm collecting dividends from Apple to the amount of the price I paid back then. And literally each and every Apple product I bought in my life, it's all being paid for by the stock gains and the dividends and everything. So I still think it's a great stock. It's probably not one where you think like it can 10x in the next 2 to 4 years. But on the other hand, who knows? For me, it's not the question, do I go more all in on Apple just because I already have a lot, right? And the same will be for Tesla. I already have a lot there, right? Yeah, leading me to my next fail, investment-wise. So when I bought a lot of Tesla stock in 2019, which was a success, right? And I went all in, right? I really went all in. I built that conviction about that stock. And I saw it was cheap, and it got cheaper and cheaper, and I bought and bought and bought and bought, and that was really the best thing I could do. But then I ended up, having like 95% of my net worth in Tesla stock, and luckily, a good part of that in a Roth IRA, right? So, but then I thought like, do I really want to keep 95% of my net worth in Tesla stock? And I thought about that a lot, and I still had the conviction all the time. And in recent years, things have changed a little bit, and I honestly do believe there are a lot of warning signals with not so much with Tesla itself, but with Elon and his state of mind, I would put it. But I decided not to sell. Right, I'm still holding a lot of Tesla stock, and I still believe they will likely 10x again within the next 2 to 5 years, I would say. So mark my words, we can get back to it at some point in time. But for me, owning already that many and having made so much gains already, it's not really an option for me to buy more, right? So, and I'm not really into trading or something, or buying some short-term options or stuff like that, because I just don't have the time, I feel, to look into these like each and every hour and minute and stuff like that. I'm building up a business here, and yeah, I'm just not a trader, right? And not even a swing trader or something. I'll just normally do long-term investments out of conviction, right? So, and that worked out for Tesla again, as it did for Apple. And then I try to diversify, right? And first of all, when diversifying, I think I sold like 15-20% of my Tesla holdings, and I thought, like, put it into something else, right? And yeah, with that pressure, right, to diversify, first of all, it was tough to make a decision for one. So I ended up like having like a dozen stocks that I invested in to diversify, because I didn't have the conviction for either of those. So I thought, like, well, if I don't have that conviction as I had for Apple and for Tesla, then yeah, maybe diversify a little bit more, right? And there were a few horrible bets there. It was Tattooed Chef, which is more or less non-existent today. It was a marijuana startup called Planet 13. They are based here in Las Vegas, and they had the kind of the vision to be the Starbucks of weed stores, right? But it never happened. For some reason, they opened a second store in Orange County, California. I even went there, checked out that second store in Orange County, and it was horrible, and nobody was there. But I still didn't sell. I should have, right? It was like down 50%, but I could have sold there, and I should have, right? I didn't, and they are like also kind of almost gone now, right? 99% loss or something, right? And I had many others that I feel are good companies, but just went down in price, just because of, I don't know, the market is risk averse or something. I have some Upwork, still holding on to these. I still have some Uber, still holding on to these. And I have some Cloudflare, NET is the ticker symbol. Still holding on to these, but none of them came close to anything that I had before. The ones that that I like really now is, I can't repeat it often enough, NVIDIA. We're not too late. It's still cheap. I got mine a few months ago for $750, and I went not all in, but I invested quite a significant amount, right? And I think it's going to be a great investment over the next 5 to 10 years. And yeah, but trying to diversify without the right conviction, and over diversifying into like 12 different stocks that you can't really track, that was a mistake, right? And I paid the price for it. Yeah, so those were my fails with regards to investments. I've also sometimes tried timing the market, and betting on some news conference for our earnings releases from Tesla. And I thought, like, well, the market is going to explode then when they hear the news about XYZ. But sometimes the market is just, they don't want to hear positive news, and they don't really hear it, right? So yeah, so those were a few fails where, I did like 10,000, 20,000 here and there, doing a big bet because I believe, well, I have better chances that it works than it doesn't, but it has never worked out for me that well. So timing the market is incredibly difficult. I recently did that with that mother token just 2 weeks ago or so. So that has 10x in 1 week, right? I've never had that. So that's great, but that's not really an investment, right? It was kind of a whole different category. I love a lot about that mother token, and it's all the right approach, and Iggy Azalea is behind it, and she's engaging with her community each and every day. Her brother seems to be quite tech savvy, and he's working on her side to get that token up and running. So it's really fun for me. And the $4,000 worth of mother tokens that I bought live on my channel here in the other video, they 10x to 40,000 in less than a week. And it's going to be interesting to see how it further develops. And it's, again, that's not really an investment and not part of my strategy or something, but I just couldn't resist the fun factor of this thing, and it's still fun, and doing that. And who knows, maybe a few weeks or months from now it'll be my next fail, right? But I only invested $4,000, and I already got it back. So when it was about on 8x, I sold what I put in the beginning, right? So I still have 7x in invested, kept it invested in those mother tokens, but took out what I originally invested. So it's basically the bank's money. It's kind of free money that I'm having right now. So even if it goes to zero, there's no real loss. And that's why, it's going to be fun for me watching that and see what's going to happen. Yeah, but those were my fails with regards to investments. I learned a lot from them. I also learned that you can know something, what you should do or should not do, but you will only live up to what you feel you should do once you've made that mistake, right? And you can learn from others by watching my video here. Maybe I'll do some more of these, like in stories about my investment philosophy and things like that. If you want more of that, please let me know in the comments. Anyway, let me know what you feel about sharing my story here. And if you want to share your story, both your successes and your fails, please do it down here in the comments. It's a safe area. I will chime in. I had my fails, losing almost all my net worth back in 2008 out of stupidity somehow, right? Well, it's not really stupidity. I understood it rationally, but I just didn't follow it, right? So yeah, it's a safe area in the comments. Let me know your story, and I promise I'll engage with you and give you my views on it. All right. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Catch you later. Peace.